Hello guys and welcome back to the channel. So in today's video we're going to be covering some more interpreting information questions. So thank you so much for all of the milestones that we've reached over these past couple of weeks, and especially as we're coming to the end of the Ucat season. The fact that you guys are still watching the videos is absolutely incredible, and thank you so much for 2.9k, and hopefully we can hit 3k or even greater before the Ucat season ends nearing the end of September. So let's have a look at this question. So which of the following can be concluded from this graph? So with interpreting information, so normally I'm very, very big on reading the question first and just trying to dive straight into it. But with interpreting information graph questions, it's important to probably read it, just probably because there's some kind of important information sometimes in the abstract. It's not necessarily always the case. So here, it's not necessarily vital to actually have read the abstract, but if we read it here, it says snowfall and snow depth were recorded in one alpine town over the winter period. Okay, snowfall data was accumulated over a 7-day period, ending in the last date displayed on the graph. Snow depth was taken on each day of the week displayed on the graph. So you can see snowfall is the blocky bar chart, and then this is the line graph as such, the snow depth. So the first 2 weeks of January saw less than 60 centimeters of snowfall. So, okay, so I will do this one as if I was going to do it representatively, so you can see here, that's the 1st to the 15th, okay, and it says, so less than 60 centimeters of snowfall. So if we have a look at this one, so like I said, let's do it representatively. So I immediately look at it and it's confusing me a little bit, so I'm just going to go to the next one. So it says total depth of snow rose constantly aside from weeks where there was no snowfall recorded. Well, I wouldn't say that's true because it dips down here. You see? So this one is going to be no. And so this is one of the tactics that I've been employing recently in interpreting information, also in syllogisms, where if there is a hard statement among the 5, right, you don't have to get fixated on it. Skip it, come back to it, move on. Okay? So snowfall on the 18th of December. Snowfall on the 18th of December was more than 3 times that. So 18th of December, snowfall was more than 3 times that on the 15th of January. Okay, so here, 18th of December, 15th of January. So what did it say about snowfall? Accumulated over a 7-day period ending in that last date displayed on the graph. So the problem with this, therefore, is that we don't actually know the individual dates. So snowfall on the 18th was more than 3 times. We can't say that because it shows an accumulation over a 7-day period. So this number here, although it says 15th, is from the 9th to the 15th, if that makes sense. And then the one before that is from the 1st to the 8th, and so on and so on. So that's why this one is no as well, because the specific dates aren't given exactly, right? So it's not like we can conclude that this is exactly 18th of December, this is exactly... So we don't know exactly what happened on that date. It could have been, for example, that the 9th, 10th, 11th, 12th, 13th, and 14th of December really, really heavy snowfall, and there could have been nothing on the 15th. But when you add them all up, because like I said here, accumulated over a 7-day period, so actually here, the abstract is quite important, then that's important, okay? So let's keep going. So between the 1st and 8th of January, more snow melted than fell. Okay, between the 1st and the 8th of January. So between this amount here. So more snow melted than fell. So this is a tricky one. So between the 1st and the 8th of January. So, of course, we don't know anything about melting, like that's not obvious, but what we do know is about the fall. And you can see the snowfall is about 20 here, right? And then if we have a look at what that equates to, so about 20 was kind of, what's the word? About 20 amounts of snow, I guess units of centimeters of snow fell between the 1st and the 8th, and you can see that transition there. And in terms of how much actually melted, is probably about half of that, I would say. So probably about half of that, half of the 20, because basically if you think about it, from here to here, this from point to point, that will be about 20, because that'll be 130 to 110, and these 2 points are about halfway between those. So that means about the snow only rose about 10, if that makes sense. Okay, so I would argue, and whilst the answer to the last one, so that means that 20 centimeters of snow fell, and the snow actually depth only increased about 10 centimeters, which requires that the other 10 must have melted, I guess. So I would say that this is no, if anything. And I know that the answer technically says yes, but sometimes I would argue that the meta answers are wrong. And maybe you guys can let me know down below why I'm getting this answer wrong, because I can't see otherwise. I guess the only other thing that you could say potentially is that maybe this value here that I've calculated to be 10 is less than 10, and it's more like, or maybe it's more than 10, maybe it's more like 15 or something. And in that case, you could argue that 20 centimeters of snow fell, and of that 15 melted, so then more melted than fell. But then it still doesn't make sense because 20 technically still fell. But from their standpoint, it may have been that 20 fell in total, and of that 15 melted, so only 5 really fell. Does that make sense? But like I said, I think it's a weird question. And honestly, I think this question you probably wouldn't get in the real thing, just because of how badly worded some of these questions are. I mean, I do like the fact that, there's a good trick in here about the 7-day period idea, but still I would argue that it's not very good. Okay, cool. Okay, so let's go to the next one. Sorry. So the first 2 weeks of January saw less than 60 centimeters of snowfall. So this one, so now that I've kind of understood the idea, this next one actually becomes quite easy, I would say, because all you have to think about it is the first 2 weeks of January is going to be from the 1st to the 8th, which is represented by this, and then from the 8th to the 15th, which is represented by this, right? So we're not including this one because that represents the dates from the 26th of December to the 1st of January. And so those, you can quite clearly see that adds up to greater than 60. So it's not going to be less than 60, it's going to be greater. Okay, so I'd put, these are the answers that I would put. I think especially for the last one, like I said, I could see why they'd put yes, but I think it's badly written, if anything, because yeah, you can just see that there's no way that more snow could have melted than fell. Well, that's what I think anyways. Okay, so let's go on to the next question in that case. Okay, so this question might look a bit strange because there's only one answer option, but there was something to discuss here. So Richard has access to more action films than Stacey. So, by the way, I'm not sure if you guys knew about this, but legends are very, very easy to read. Okay, so don't try and just pick out the colors. Obviously, it's obvious that horror is the black one over here, right? But the point is that legends are always written in like order. So it always goes, however big your legend is, especially for these tables, it'll be 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and you just keep going on like this. Okay, so you will just keep going kind of as you'd almost read like a newspaper, basically. It's like columns of a newspaper. You can kind of think about it like that. So we're looking for, so it says Richard has access to more action films than Stacey. So action is going to be the third one. So that's 15, 25, 40, and 50 in this instance. Okay, so yeah, okay. So it says Richard has access to more. So Richard overall had watched 90 action films. Stacey watched 40. So this is a weird one because basically the answer to this is no, because we don't know about how much access they had, right? It might have just been that Stacey actually had more access, but she had less free time, so she couldn't have done it. Yeah, you don't know anything about that, I guess. And so this is once again a bit of a weird one because you might think that this is an inference you can make based off on the info that's given to you. The only thing I would say is, so with data questions, you don't normally make as much inference as with the text-based ones. Remember, one of the weaknesses that I said with Medify and MedEntry, for example, is that they don't allow you to make as much inference as the real question bank. But that's specifically for the text-based questions, sorry. For the data questions, they are normally a bit more straightforward as such, I would say, to some extent. And once again, I wouldn't worry too much about it because I don't think there'll be a question like this on the real thing, okay? So I think in the actual Ucat, so someone sent me this question in saying, like, could we infer here? So I would say in the actual Ucat, you probably couldn't infer in this case because it's a data question, okay? Because it's a data question specifically. If it was a text-based question, it would be a different kind of idea potentially, okay? So I hope that makes sense. Cool, okay? So let's go on to the next question. Okay, so next question. A mathematics institute uses 3 different supercomputers to run a complex algorithm called the de Ruyter test. Supercomputer X can operate for 20 hours, running the algorithm at a max of 30 times per hour. Y can operate for 140 hours per week, running the algorithm a maximum of 6,000 times per week. So supercomputer Z can operate non-stop, running the algorithm a maximum of 960 times per day. Okay, so this is a rendition of some of the questions that we've seen before, and it goes back to the idea of what I said about how what Medify and MedEntry do is they rip off the questions from the official Ucat question bank. Okay, so it's important to be able to see how they are approached and to be able to hopefully understand. So whilst this doesn't look exactly similar because we don't have a table as such, so those questions where it's like the only limiting factor is the amount of time someone has, and it's like baking cookies and donuts and blah blah blah, whatever. Okay, so let's have a look at this. And so the main idea will be we'll have to kind of like multiply and scale these up. So if supercomputer X, you have to work out how many you're doing per week, etc., etc. So the institute cannot achieve a target of running the algorithm 17,000 times in a week using the 3 at max capacity. So for supercomputer Z, it's 960 times 7, which would be 6,720. Supercomputer Y, you've got 6,000 times a week, so I don't need to add that. And then lastly, it says 30 times per hour, 20 hours per day. So 30 times 20 times 7, which is 4,200. So if we add up these numbers, we will get overall 16,920. So therefore, this is true. We cannot achieve a target. Okay. So it cannot achieve a target of running the De Ruyter test in 4 weeks using supercomputer Y and Z alone, each at maximum capacity. So you can see we've done something good here because we worked out, I think this was X, this was Z, and this was Y, okay? Because now all we need to do is we just need to take these values and switch up with them, because we know this is the max they can output in a week. So it cannot achieve the target of running the De Ruyter test 50,000 times in 4 weeks using Y and Z alone. So Y and Z alone is 6,000 plus 6,720, and you times that by 4, and you get, so 6,720 plus 6,000, times that by 4, and you get 50,880. Okay, so this would be wrong because it can achieve it, because you do get the 50,000 hours as such. Okay. So if supercomputer Y runs the algorithm a consistent number of times per hour each day when operating at maximum capacity, it will run the algorithm 12.5% fewer times per day than supercomputer Z when both are operating at maximum capacity. So supercomputer Z is 960 a day for Z, and for Y it says it's 6,000 times per week, operates for 140 hours. So if it's 140 hours per week and it's 6,000 times per week, so it's going to be 6,000 divided by 140. Sorry, not 6,140. It's going to be 960. So supercomputer Z operates a maximum of 960 times per day, but this is asking for per hour. So you have to do 960 divided by 24, which equals 40. And then for supercomputer Y, you have to do 6,000 divided by, and if it's 140 hours per week, per day it's going to be oh no, it's not meant to be per day, it's just meant to be per hour. So per hour it's going to be 140. So 6,000 divided by 140, simply 42.8 ... It will run the algorithm 12.5% fewer times. So you don't even need to work this out. You can see it's already going to be greater. So the answer here is going to be no once again. Okay, so when operating for a week of maximum capacity, supercomputer Z runs the De Ruyter test 60% more times than supercomputer X. So once again, you can see, because we already have the numbers here, it should make our life a lot easier. So we have 4,200 for X, 6,720 for Z, and remember the fast way to do percentage change, 6,720 divided by 4,200, subtract 1, okay, and then times that by 100, which is equal to 6,720 subtract 4,200 minus 6,720 divided by 4,200 minus 1, times that by 100, and you get 60% exactly. So this is true. So the last one is true. Okay, and so you can see here, so someone sent in this question saying that it took them a couple of minutes. I would say that if you'd worked this bit out, it would definitely have made your life a lot easier, because this question, and this question were all based around that main principle of multiplying, dividing up by them. So sometimes it can be beneficial to kind of like, one of the ideas that I talk about in syllogisms is this idea of something called a central concept, which is where multiple questions can be answered using a similar phrase or similar logic, similar style of working. You can kind of do a similar thing here. Okay, you can just do it because based off that you'll be able to answer more of the questions. Okay, makes sense? Cool. So I hope that this video was helpful, and I know that this question in particular has been in the question bank for quite a long time, but I was just waiting for a couple more interpreting information questions before I thought about doing them all together. But I'd just like to say a massive thank you once again to all of you guys for all of your help and for all of your support, especially over this past month. And I hope, like I said before, that all of your UCATs are going well, and I look forward to hearing back from you guys about how everything is going on. Okay, I'll see you guys in the next video.